So another 6th grade concept is speed. You had to learn how to calculate speed, so you used the triangle. So now remember, when you use a triangle, you can actually solve for speed, distance, or time. So if I want to solve for speed, I would cover the S. What I'm left with is distance divided by time. If I want to solve for time, I cover the T, and I'm left with distance divided by speed. If I want to solve for distance, I cover the D, speed times time. So just like in math class, if they're side by side, you multiply. If they're on top of each other, you divide. So learn how to use your triangle so that you can identify all of the different formulas you might need. So these are the steps. First thing, when you read the problem, make sure you know what you're solving for and identify the correct formula to use. Then go back to the problem and identify the known variables, what's given to you in the problem. Solve it using your calculator. I know many times you think you can do the math in your head, and that's great, but always double check yourself using a calculator. After you solve it, give an answer with units. So we're going to go through those steps and see what we end up with. So if we look at our first scenario, we see a car travels 273.7 miles in 3.5 hours. What was his average speed? So I know, according to this, I'm solving for speed. So if we go back, speed is distance divided by time. So I'm solving for speed, distance over time. So that means in order to solve it, I need to know my distance and I need to know my time. Go back to your problem. Look at your units. I have miles and I have hours. Obviously, miles is a unit for distance. Okay. Hours is a unit for time. So now I have everything I need to be able to solve it. So when you put that into the calculator, you should get an answer. Now, I need to go back and look at my unit because we cannot have an answer without a unit. So if I look at my units, I had miles and I have hours. So speed is the relationship to distance and time, so I need both of those. So miles per hour. So this would be our answer. So if you follow the steps, you shouldn't have any problems. Now another way to look at it is from a graph. So if we take a look at this graph, our question again says, what is the average speed of the ball? Well, by definition, average speed means total distance divided by total time. So if I'm looking for average, right? Total distance traveled divided by the total time. So if I'm looking at a graph, if it is a consecutive line on this graph, I can go to the final point. So here's my point. So I can go to here to get my time. I can go over here to get my distance. So again, let's figure this out. So my distance equals 10 meters. My time equals 50 seconds. Now, again, set up our problem. So speed is going to be equal to 10 divided by 50. Make sure to do the math. Do not guess. So this is going to be equal to 0.2 meters per second. So make sure that if it's a graph, you find your total distance and your total time. Right? Always use a calculator to check your work. Do not assume that you know the answer. If you struggle on a graph, always go back to what is it asking for. In this case, it's asking for the average speed for the entire trip. I find the final point. It could have asked me what is the speed of the ball between time 0 and time 20. If that were the case, I would only be looking at this segment of the line. If I was only looking at that segment of the line, for that one, my distance would only be 2, and my time would be 20. So you would solve for just that segment, okay? So always be careful that you know what the question is asking.